Are you the one? There are almost 8 billion people in the world, but are you the one that needs hope? In this very moment, there are 332 million people in the US, but are you the one that feels alone? Good news is, you're not alone. While 80,000 thoughts will bombard you today and can feel chaotic, just one thought can potentially bring you peace and free you. Join us today, together with our guests, as we sift through the challenges, pains, questions, and victories in life. In sharing our stories, are you the one that will be inspired to take the next step toward fully living the purposeful and abundant life God created for you? Welcome to Are You the One?
Hi everyone, welcome back to Are You the One? My name is Trish, and I'm here with my guest again today, Leah.
Hello, my name is Leah.
And last week we were in a discussion about addiction and how it has taken over like such a huge portion of our nation. Mm-hmm. I mean, our nation is in an addiction crisis,
yes,
amongst other things, but certainly the addiction crisis. And we were talking about things that are effective, that we've both seen are effective in combating addiction, and some of the things that can be hindrances are part of what we're going to talk about today. And also, like how, as followers of Jesus or as the church at large, how can we be like more effective, more like part of the solution? What can we do? Because we, right? Jesus said we are the salt and the light here. And that means that we are to bring light into the darkness of this journey that people are on and that people we love are on. People that we're never going to see are on. But God knows each one of them, and we have a moral, a spiritual responsibility to people here that God has in our lives and in our nation, across other nations. But we have that responsibility to bring life into this journey, right? Like we can intersect in ways that other people can't. Like we can do things. And so I did want to spend just a couple of minutes, Leah, if you want to talk about a couple of the things, because if you can describe where you work now and what you do.
So I work at a detox center, and so we have people coming in for various addictions, and then we also have a residential side. So I'm a nurse there.
Yep. And so you get to see, people in their raw state.
Absolutely.
And both of us having been around recovery for, quite a while now, we both have in our own minds things that have caused people to relapse. Just some of the many things, but there's a pattern generally. Yeah. And so I'd like to kind of throw the ball to you, like talk about a couple of the things that you've seen that cause people to relapse.
Well, one of the things that I've seen is being enabled by their family, so they will come into treatment and they will want to get sober, and we will call, when they want to leave against medical advice, we'll call their family. And a lot of times their family will say, okay, come on back. And, setting that boundary, which can be hard because, for my son was also an addict, which can be hard because you don't want to enable them, but at the same time, you want to love them and let them know that they're loved and let them know that you believe in them and believe that they can get sober and beat this addiction. One of the things that was helpful for me is going to Al-Anon meetings, and I know they have PALS meetings, which are parents of addicted loved ones. And through there, you kind of work the 12 steps yourself, and so you can learn how to not enable, but still love the addict, because that's definitely a reason why I see them go out. Their parents will give them money and they'll be gone, or their, wife or husband. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily even be the parents.
Right. Absolutely. Oh, and I concur. That is probably one of the top reasons that I would say. And correct. It doesn't have to be, the parents or the wife or the husband. It can be a friend or somebody that is an enabler that they can go to. And you may be like, well, I'm never enabling. And I'm probably going to challenge some people listening to this that you probably, really need to take a fierce look at yourself, that you might be, if you have somebody in your life who is continuing to relapse, and there's somebody that you are in relationship with them and you're not setting firm boundaries around things and keeping the boundaries. It's one thing to set a firm boundary. It's another to keep it, right?
Absolutely.
I know it's easy to set the boundary. It says firm, and this boundary's not going anywhere until you get that call from them in, they're out on the street, or they're in recovery and it's just not working, Mom, and I just need to, and you can fill in the blanks of the things that will tug at your heartstrings and the patterns of behavior that we have with people. It's like a dance that you do with an addict.
Yeah.
Right?
And as addicts, we are master manipulators. So we know exactly what to say to tug on the heartstrings, especially with, the people that love us.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, people, we can all look at that if we have people in our lives that are struggling with addiction and we're part of their support system. And we need to really look at that ourselves and to say, am I enabling this? Do I give my son, daughter, friend, whatever, money because they spent their money on whatever they spent it on, right? And now they need food and they need money for their electricity or something. And so I'll earmark this money is for food, right? Or this money is for things. But is that enabling?
Well, and fentanyl is so cheap these days. In Phoenix, it cost $1 for a pill of fentanyl, and one pill is enough to overdose on. And one of the reasons for that is because you don't know what's in it, what they're putting in it. They're making them into pills and then sending them over or wherever they're doing it. And so that's one thing that I always try to think of. Even driving down the street and I see somebody that's homeless, I want to give them money, but at the same time, I know that if I give them $1, that it could be signing their death wish.
Right. Man, Leah, that's such a good thing for us to remember. It used to be that if you were going to stop at a stop sign and a stoplight and somebody was there and you holding up the sign saying whatever it is, obviously wanting money, and that, chances are I don't know, maybe 50-50 that it's actually going for rent or food or something, or maybe they'll end up spending some of it on a drink. Well, there's a lot of difference between going in and spending some of it on a drink.
Absolutely.
Or spending taking $1 of that for a fentanyl pill.
Well, and it wasn't so cheap. Until I started working at the detox center, I didn't realize that my measly little $1 that I'm giving them is enough for them to buy drugs. And when my patients come in, a lot of times I'll ask them, well, how are you getting the money for this? And I would say probably 30% of them say from panhandling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to have this discussion more. I want to continue down this road, even though I say we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to take this one a little bit further, okay? Because I hear this argument from people about this is the Christian thing to do. And if I give them money, it's not up to me how they spend it, okay? I'm going to challenge that a lot. Because they are not capable of making a safe decision for themselves. And if we keep giving money, then that keeps them in addiction. You actually become drawn into their addiction every time you are handing money out at the traffic light to that person holding the sign.
Well, in the way that fentanyl works, any opioid, if you don't have it, you start to get sick. So there's only so long that an addict can go without the drug before they will start to get physically sick. So, of course, they're not going to be able to make a decision on spending this on a burger or spending it on a fentanyl pill when they are, having all sorts of sickness going on from it. So the best bet is stopping and getting them something to eat. I mean, I had a guy one time, I had my leftover pizza, and boy, was it a good pizza. And the guy was asking for food, and I rolled down the window and I said, here, I have this pizza left. And he's like, well, what am I going to do with this? I was thinking, well, eat it. It's a good pizza right there. But so, there will be those times when they don't even want that.
Correct. Go ahead, continue.
And circling back to the enabling, part of, we don't want our kids, of course, or our loved ones to be on the street and to be homeless. But at the same time, something has to happen to get somebody to reach their bottom. What had to happen for me is my mom filed for custody of my daughter. So once I lost my daughter and I had no place to live, then that was when I decided that was enough. But something has to happen to get somebody to decide that this is enough. And if that means living on the streets, then that's what that means. Because the choices are, in addiction is you're going to go to jail, you're going to get sober, or you're going to die, or your options. And so we don't want death, So we want them to get sober. And if that means that they have to be destitute and be on the streets, as heartbreaking as it is, then that's what that means.
Yeah. And some of the things I think that are brought into that enabling place, just like things that I've heard and maybe some that I've even experienced. Like number one, I would say is pride, one of the things that cause us to enable. Like, I don't want people thinking like I'm not taking care of my kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Or guilt.
Guilt. Yeah. Parental guilt or
yes.
Or guilt as a bad friend or whatever. And because addiction is so manipulative that they know how to make you feel guilty too.
Yeah.
Right? They know what buttons to press. The same button wouldn't work for me as it would for, my husband or my daughter, but they would know if they're in relationship, like they would know what things like could cause us to like give them the money. Right. And sometimes it is pride. I've heard that many times, like we're not like that. Like my son, my daughter, my husband, he's not going to be out on the street homeless. Like that's not going to happen. Well, that may be the best solution.
Absolutely.
Right. Or jail.
Yeah.
Jail has been like, how many people we know who got
sober from jail.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's better than death. So there's, 3 options, so the other 2 options are much better than death.
Yes. Yes, they are. And so I know this went a little bit further on the idea of handing money to people when you don't know like where that money is going. And that honestly, like for each one of us to really think about when you go to hand $1 to a person, what you can actually be giving them is a death sentence.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you said, Leah, that they'll get sick as they start like coming off of fentanyl, okay? So then what would be the option for a person there getting sick, coming off of fentanyl, has nothing? So where would they go? What would they do?
So when you're detoxing from alcohol, it could kill you because of the fact that you could have a seizure and you could die. When you're detoxing from an opioid, fentanyl per se, it can't kill you. You cannot die, but you feel like you're going to die. So you just have to either go through that. And that's why, detoxes have come to be a popular option, because then we can give them, different medication to help treat the different symptoms that they're experiencing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So they would, like, what would the person do? When you say a detox? So somebody's there, like, on the street, or somebody's getting a phone call. Let's say somebody's getting a phone call from their son today, and, like, Mom, like, I'm hurting, I need... What would he or she do? Where could they go? Who could they call?
Well, they have 211, which
Okay.
is a community resources. And so they can always lead you resources. But I know like certain detoxes take certain types of insurance if they have either state insurance or they have private insurance. But I know at Community Bridges, they take everybody. So anybody can go there, and then they try to get them connected with other resources.
Okay, and so 211 would take them to basically
Community resources. Yeah,
Okay.
any community resource that you need.
Okay.
So if you're experiencing homelessness or, besides addiction, if you need food, if you need clothing, then just call 211.
Okay, so everybody hear that? It's really easy to remember.
Yeah.
211 instead of 911.
Or 411.
Yes,
That-
or
back
411.
in the day.
Yeah, right. Woo, man.
I'm dating myself now.
Even forgot about 411 so quickly. Okay, so thank you for coming on the journey with me around that trail about like stopping and handing a dollar. So, and challenging everybody, every single person that listens to this, no matter where you are, think about that. Like that dollar that you're handing them, you could be handing them a death sentence.
Yeah.
And so go drive around, pick up some food, if that's what they're saying, and then come back and do that. So give them the food rather than the dollar. So
one of the options is, if you're, I know for me that it's hard for me to drive by somebody that's asking for food, and asking for money. But I can go get them something to eat at some place. It does take a lot of extra effort, but the extra effort is worth it because it definitely could be saving their lives. Right. I mean, I had a patient that did one fentanyl pill and she overdosed right there in front of me. I mean, praise the Lord, we were able to, save her with Narcan, and I mean, Narcan's a good resource too. If you're in Phoenix, your best bet is be driving around with some Narcan because they're overdosing rapidly.
Yes. And so driving, going and getting food for them rather than giving them that dollar. Mm-hmm. And then if they're looking for recovery, and it's nobody that doesn't have a cell phone anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like everybody has a cell phone. And so 211 for all kinds of resources,
yes.
for food, for to detox, for anything. They can just do 211. And so for those of you who, you can also have, which at point I did, I carried cards that had recovery things on it too. Mm-hmm. So I would do that because I was leading recovery meetings, so I'd talk to them about that and give them a card and say, you can call and we'll actually come and pick you up for a recovery meeting, and you get a meal and et cetera. So there are lots of ways that we can help people rather than being the kind of helping that really hurts.
Yeah. And I wanted to touch on something else too, as we're talking about what can help the addict to get sober, is also letting them know that they are loved. Mm-hmm. So showering them with love. And that's a hard balance to have between not enabling, but yet still letting them know they're loved. I mean, don't give up on your loved one. When I got sober, I met some people that were friends with my grandmothers, and they said, it's so good to finally meet you because your grandparents have been putting you on the church prayer list for 10 years. Oh, so for 10 years, every week, my grandparents would put me on the church prayer list. And, they never gave up on me. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't go to their house and crash on their couch. But they still loved me, and I knew that they loved me. Mm-hmm. And so it's important that whoever the addict is knows that they're loved and knows that you believe in them and that they can do this.
And yet, just that, when you said that you knew that you couldn't go and crash on their couch. And I'm kind of challenging a lot of people who are going to be listening and watching this, that you couldn't say no. What harm would it do letting them crash on your couch? Mm-hmm. Right? Well, a lot of harm, right?
Yeah, because it's helping, it's getting them further from their bottom, and like I said previously is I didn't want to get clean and sober to quit necessarily doing drugs and alcohol. I wanted to get clean and sober because I was sick of the lifestyle that I had. I was sick of the people I was involved with, and I was sick of the choices that I was making, and I wasn't even living on the streets.
Right.
But, living on the streets can be a powerful motivation to want to change.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would think so. And so, like offering your couch up to the addict who is in your life is not necessarily what you think it is. Like, this is helping. It's like handing the dollar bill in a different way, except it's a few dollar bills probably because, So in terms of like, as followers of Jesus who love people, right? Like, we're loved, right? Because he first loved us, right? And we love others, and we love him through that love, okay? And our heart should be breaking when we drive past. Like, there's so, like, man, you drive past people who are in the middle of that fentanyl, I call it the fentanyl death pose, almost like, and it just like brings me to tears and like, God, there has to be more that we can do. There has to be more. And sometimes I want to throw this out. Here's just some thoughts that I have going in my head when I pass people by. And that is, like, once in a while, God calls me to pull over and talk to them. Okay. And making sure, it's safe and all of those types of things. And that it's God saying it. And so, and then, like, praying for people right then and there. Like, what's your name? And I've let people know, did you know, like, that God himself, like, told me to pull over because he saw you and he loves you and he wants you to know that there's a way out of this. And it's not in, like, the next pill, okay? Like, he has a way, and praying for them and letting them know that. And a spirit of addiction for those of you who are brave and bold and in your faith and know, like, that we've been given that power and authority to lay hands on the sick and to speak to, like, demonic forces and to cast them out. And so I have friends in my life who had, like, that's what happened. And so that's how their recovery began. And they still then had to go through recovery because their mind had to be renewed. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that obsession that you were talking about last time, you lost it that night, but you still had to go through recovery to learn how to live life differently. So your thoughts on, like, ways that we as the church at large, or individual churches, or just individual followers of Jesus can be more effective in combating the scourge of addiction?
Yeah, well, I will stop and pray with people too. And that was something I haven't done previously, but there's been times where we'll, like, give out sandwiches, and then I'll ask them if I can pray with them. And it amazes me how many people are like, yes, you can pray with me. Very few people have said no, because the majority of people that are in addiction do not want to be there. And just like I did not want to be there for many years. They just can't see a way out. And I would say probably 90%, of, fentanyl users don't want to be doing this. And only in the beginning does it seem like an okay idea, I mean, the good news about, I don't know if it's good news, but about fentanyl is the addiction doesn't last as long because they don't live that long. I mean, I think the longest I've seen somebody in a fentanyl addiction was probably 7 years. And I was surprised that this person told me they had been a fentanyl addict for 7 years, because most of the time they get sober prior to that, or they die because they're rapidly overdosing. I mean, thank goodness we have Narcan and can bring them back. But
yeah. So then, Like, what can we do? We can stop and pray.
Yes, we can stop and pray for them and let them know that there is another way. I've shared my experience with them. When I was 4 years sober, I lost my son, who was an addict. He took his life by suicide. And I stayed sober through that, which is just, I know it's the truth in my story, but it's just unbelievable to me that I was able to stay sober through that, because I couldn't stay sober for 3 days, much less through losing part of me like that. But God carried me through that, and even after I was sober, I went back to school. After my son's death, I just decided life is short and I'm not going to waste my time doing something that I kind of like to do. And I went back to school to become a nurse, so things like that aren't supposed to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I kind of would like to encapsulate some of this as we're getting ready to close around what the things were that kept you sober in that thing as like a place of hope.
Yeah.
For others to know, like, there are things. We can go through the worst of things, right, which you were experiencing then. You were, like you say, 4 years into your own recovery, okay, after an addiction of many, many years. And then you're 4 years into your recovery, and your son dies by suicide.
Yeah.
And so if you would share, just like, yeah.
Well, it was definitely the people around me. I know we have talked about this a lot, but it was the community. At that point, I was plugged into a community because just kind of like if you make a decision to follow Christ and you don't have any accountability towards that, then the devil gets back in there. And that's the same way it is with addiction. You have to replace the addiction with something else, some value and some purpose. But it gives people hope, because never did my family, could they have imagined the woman. They knew my capability, but never could they have imagined how wonderful and joyful my life would turn out to be. And I could have never imagined either, and that's possible for all of us.
Yes.
I've seen, I have patients that come in that are struggling with addiction, and I can just sense with them that they are going to be a warrior, and they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, once they get sober. And so just keep loving them.
Yeah, keep loving them. And when they don't have any hope, we become that hope.
That's right.
And whether it's through prayer, whether it's through sharing our own experiences, whether it's through, like helping people get into, like some type of a recovery program or to detox, like be part of the solution. We all can be part of the solution. None of us are powerless in this. None of us are powerless in this.
That's right.
Okay. And so I just want to, thank Leah again for just she is one of the warriors in my world. And so thanks for always being on the journey. You know how much I love you.
I love you too.
And we're just grateful that you were here with us too on the journey. And do us a favor, respond to some of the things that we've put on these last 2 programs. Respond to things that you have found that have been helpful, or maybe things that we never covered that you can throw out there that might be, in the comments section, that might be helpful for others to know about. And then we would love to then bring some of those ideas to the table too. So as we end this episode of Are You the One? Thank you for being on the journey with us, because no matter what, it's all about God and others. That's what our life is all about. Have a great rest of your day. God bless.
Thank you for listening to Are You the One today. We are grateful that you chose to get into the messiness of life with us. We pray that you have been encouraged and blessed and are ready to perhaps take that next step. Remember, you are not alone. Please visit our website, areyoutheoneshow.com for resources and reinforcements to help you navigate your way to the heart of God and His great plans for your life. Join us again next week as together we dive into the deep end of life's issues on Are You the One?